tackling tough topics to help you think reasonably about life's most important issues. This is Thinker Sensitive.
You are listening to the City Builder Podcast, produced by Thinker Sensitive. I'm Shawn Reine, and today I will be interviewing Tyler Hill, co-owner and director of guest experience at Loyal Coffee, and today is his birthday, so happy birthday and welcome, Tyler.
Hey, thank you. I appreciate it.
You got it, man. Hey, thanks for coming here today. So, man, how long have you lived in Colorado Springs?
Yeah, I graduated in 2009 from high school in Salida High School, and then moved here in the fall, in around August of 2009.
Yeah.
So I've been here for a hot second. It's funny. A lot of people ask me where I'm from, and since I've been here for, it seems like so long, I just kind of say I'm from here now. So even though I didn't grow up here, man, I've been here since 2009 and love it.
Yeah, one thing I know, man, when I met you and just talking to everybody who knows you was like, you love three things, man. You love this city, you love coffee, man, and you love people.
You got it.
So, dude, and you have just definitely lived that out in front of me, man. So tell me a little bit about the story, man. Like, why coffee? How did you get into loving coffee so much?
Totally. Yeah, so one of my first jobs in high school was actually at a coffee shop.
Okay.
In Salida, downtown, but it was definitely more of like a tourist trap. It wasn't a place like where coffee really mattered or anything. It was just making money. In fact, I can remember they would make us use like a shot of coffee. Like we'd put the coffee in the portafilter, put it in, and we'd use it twice. We'd go through twice because the guy was like trying to save money, which is super not cool. But I didn't know any better back then. So that was my first kind of coffee memory, but it didn't really matter to me much. What was really crazy and like illuminating for me was I was in college and I would drive by this place and you could buy a coffee mug for like $200.
Yeah.
And you could fill it up as much as you wanted for a whole year. So I bought that, and every day on my way to college and on my way to class and on my way back, I would fill it up, and that's where I'd hang out. And that was the first place that I noticed, wow, like this coffee tastes different than that coffee than this one. And it just fascinated me so much. So I hung out there all the time. I actually applied, believe it or not, at that place. I applied to work there 5 times.
What?
And they never hired me.
Oh, man, that's crazy.
Because I wanted to learn so bad.
Yeah.
But for some reason, they didn't want me. Well, one of the guys that worked there knew kind of my interest and passion. Well, he eventually left and went to a new place.
Yeah.
He was asked to open a place called the Ivy Wild School. And so he tracked me down and found me and said, yo, I want you to work with me. I want you to learn and stuff. And so he mentored me for a while at Ivy Wild. And that's really where I began to learn.
Yeah.
And so that mentorship and getting to help open the Ivy Wild School is really where it took off. I was interested, and then that mentorship just took me to a whole new level. And
that's cool.
Ever since then, it's just been kind of, all out, go get them, learn about coffee.
So now, when did you guys open Loyal Coffee?
Yeah, so we opened Loyal October 1st, 2 years ago. So 2016, October 1st, 2016.
Wow, man, that's amazing.
Yeah.
I love the atmosphere there, man. It
Thank
seems
you.
like everything that you guys do is just so intentional, man.
Sure.
And every time I go in there, there's just a certain vibe, man. There's a certain feel. And
Yeah.
I know that's not by accident, you know? And so tell me a little bit about, like, how did you guys create that atmosphere, create that culture or that vibe that we feel when we walk in the doors?
Yeah, I think, there's a lot to that, obviously, and we could spend just so many hours talking about how to create a great experience. And I think what you said is really important, is to understand that no matter what context you're in, right? Whether it's a doctor's office, whether you're at a church, whether it's a coffee shop or a cocktail bar, that creating an experience or creating a feeling isn't an accident.
Yeah.
Like, you can be intentional to do so. And so I think for us, where it really starts is we need to learn how to flip our perspective, okay? So how do we see things at Loyal? We often say, how do we look at things through the perspective of a guest?
Yeah.
And so a lot of times when we build something we're excited about, we build what we think is going to be cool. Mm-hmm. The problem with that is like I'm a coffee person and I love really unique niche things about coffee. Mm-hmm. The pastor of a church sees church through a specific lens, through all their study and the things that they enjoy, right? And that makes sense. That's how we're built and wired. We like the things that we like.
Yeah.
But oftentimes the people that consume what we have to offer are very different than us. And so for us at Loyal, the first step is to take off like our perspective and maybe our little niche passions and things and put on the glasses of the guest.
That's good.
And look through the experience through their perspective. And that changes a lot.
That's right.
And so whenever we're building an experience, that's where you need to start. And so even down to just little things like a lot of places play music that the baristas like. Or, right, well, that's cool, but what if that doesn't fit the vibe of the weather outside, or that doesn't fit the aesthetic of your shop? You should play music that fits more, right?
That's
so like that fits more what's happening in there. And so I think that's where it all starts. The other thing to consider is just all five senses. And so whenever we make a decision, we try to make one that will positively affect all five senses.
That's awesome.
And that's really where a vibe starts, is just making sure that you're paying attention to how things, not only what you see, but what you hear, what you feel, what you taste. And as much of those that you can control as possible, you should. Yeah. Some of those things are out of our control, and that's fine. But we need to be as intentional as possible with all five senses.
That's right. I love that, man. And so, like, I've heard these two words a whole lot lately, like hospitality, guest experiences, those kind of things. Man, you've really allowed these two words to like permeate everything that you do, man. It's all that you are about, not just at work, but, man, things that you do for fun, things at home, all the way around. Where did you get that? Like how did that switch really click?
It's a good question.
For you, man?
Yeah. Little did I know that my whole life, hospitality was being sort of built into me and being infused into my DNA. Yeah. It's actually really crazy. My mom passed away just 2 weeks ago. Yeah. And it's just been really difficult, and we've been processing that. But it's also really allowed me to consider just how I grew up and what I saw. And there's just a couple things that was just really special to me. For one was how hospitable my mom was to our community and things like this. For example, when I grew up, my parents had to buy an extra full-size freezer. Yeah. And 3 microwaves, because at lunch, all the kids from the high school would come over to our house and they would eat all this food. So the kids that couldn't afford a good lunch or didn't want to eat at the school or didn't have any friends to sit with walked 3 blocks down to our house and had food.
That's amazing.
More often than not, we had somebody living in our house. Like, I don't remember a time where someone else that wasn't in our family lived at home. Yeah. So that was kind of some of the lifestyle we lived. But one of the other things that was so special to me is watching how my dad always served my mom. And like my dad always just had to be there. And, what's interesting is that my dad didn't sign up for that when they got married. He didn't know my mom would end up being so sick. And so watching my dad take care of my mom my whole life really, I believe, infused into me a DNA that I really feel like later on in life I've had to manifest. It was so important in my childhood growing up. And now I saw the impact that it had on my family and on me. Yeah. And I want to kind of carry on that legacy and transfer that out into my community and to the people that I interact with. And so I think that's why hospitality to me is so important. Now, on a really practical level, what I've really learned is that hospitality is a major force of positive change in the world.
That's right.
Right? And so when we have an opportunity to interact with other people, there's the reality of like we can just go through the transactions that we have in life. Right? Somebody comes to a coffee shop and gets a coffee and goes on their way. Or, we have to do business. We do this or that and interact with the people that we cross paths with, whatever industry we're in and whatever community we're in. But the reality is that there's always opportunity in these transactions, whether it's interacting with our kids' soccer coach or having a business meeting, that we can take it from beyond just transactional and add hospitality to it.
I love that.
And so for me, I try to, as much as possible, whenever I'm interacting in a scenario, say, okay, like there's the things that I have to do, the things that I need to do.
Yeah.
Then how do I take that one step further and add hospitality into it?
That's cool.
And if we really want to learn about hospitality and customer service and what that is, that's really what it is, right? So there's a difference between service and there's a difference between hospitality. Mm-hmm. Service is just getting those things done.
That's right.
The things done that you need to do. For example, Taco Bell is great at service, I think. You usually get what you want. You get it really quickly. You get it consistently. They make it, bada bing, bada boom, you're in and out.
That's right.
But Taco Bell lacks hospitality.
Yeah.
Okay? Now, there's some places that are great at hospitality. Think about like the mom and pop shop where they just love you and you feel like you're at home and all of that. That's a beautiful thing.
Yeah.
But a lot of times they lack service, and if the food's not always consistent, it's probably good, but it's not always consistent. So to me, there's a beauty of, okay, let's figure out how we can combine both of those. You need service and systems. You need to do the transactions. So how do I have systems and procedures that make Loyal Coffee come out consistent, that I serve people very quickly? How do we interact with our friends and neighbors? But hospitality is what happens in between those things.
That's so good.
How do we make people feel seen when we're giving them coffee? How do we make them feel loved when they're giving them coffee?
Yeah.
Now, the thing is without service, it makes hospitality really hard.
Yeah.
Right? So I could be giving I could be the nicest person, but if I don't give them the coffee they want, it doesn't really have the same effect.
Yeah.
So you got to start with good service and the transaction and that very foundational interaction. Then you have to find where you can infuse hospitality into the middle of those things.
I love
so
that word.
I think that exists in life, in just interactions with our family and friends, and I think that can also obviously exist in the workplace. And
That's right.
That's what I've become really passionate about, and ever since I was young, trying to learn how do I infuse that into everything I do.
That's right. Infusing hospitality, man. I love
sir.
that word. That's really cool. What I love also, man, is that it's not just about your customers that come in. I have just seen your employees, man, and they love working at Loyal.
Yep.
And you guys have created just this amazing culture. You know, I see a lot of millennials, man, that you've hired. I know you've given tons of talks on, you know, how to motivate millennials, how to hire millennials, how to, you know, mentor and work with millennials. Man, tell us a little bit about just like your hiring strategies and, you know, just like how have you hired to really enhance that culture and what have you seen kind of switch in that, man?
Yeah. You know, so when it comes to, I suppose, hospitality, one of the really important things that you need to realize is if you can't be hospitable towards your team members, they're not going to be hospitable to your guests.
Yeah.
Or maybe even in more reality, the more hospitable you are to your team members, the more hospitable they'll be towards your guests.
Yeah.
So I think, first of all, when you hire people, you know, you need to be able to create a culture and an atmosphere where you are showing them the type of culture that you want to you want them to display in the workplace. And so for me, it starts at the top. And so for us, we try to be as hospitable as possible to our team members. And that comes with gifts, and that comes with being intentional.
That's right.
And these types of things. But the reality is not everybody responds to that stuff, right, in the same way. Mm-hmm. So we have the systems and procedures and things that we believe really work at Loyal Coffee's in the Loyal Coffee culture. And so we need to work really hard to hire people that fit within that. And so in order to have good employee engagement and to really empower our team members, we need to hire the people that fit. And so good culture in the workplace really starts at hiring. Yeah. And I didn't know that at first, but I've become so insanely passionate about hiring. It's one of my favorite things.
That's
and
cool.
One of my favorite things to teach and talk about. And so there's a couple things we look at when we hire, but the reality is like first you need to have a culture fit, and you need to measure what your culture is. And so you need to have a common purpose and values and goals. Then you need to figure out if the people that you're interviewing fit your culture. The second thing that you need to find is what at Loyal we call a high achiever, someone that's going to achieve their job and achieve at a high level at the job that you need them to do. And when you can combine a culture fit with a high achiever, then you've really made a good hire. And so it's finding those people as they fit with you that will really allow you to just have people that stay for a long time and do a really good job.
That's right.
So we measure some really fun things. For example, we try to measure if someone's internally motivated or externally motivated. I want somebody that's internally motivated, someone who I don't have to motivate, somebody who just inherently wants to do a good job.
That's right.
That's like one thing that we love to look for. And so when you can hire the right people, then you can bring them into your culture. Because when you hire the right people, they're prone to thrive within your culture, right?
That's right.
And so then we do the things that continue to build upon the existing culture that we have. And it works because we bring people in that are prone to thrive there anyways. So it all starts with hiring and
awesome.
bringing in the right people.
Yeah. I remember hearing a story, man. I think you had shared it one time in a conversation about just one thing that you guys do. You definitely listen during an interview, and then you surprise that person on day one with something. Tell us a little bit about that story, man, and how that works.
So every business that has employees needs to build what they call an employee experience journey map. And what that is when you should map out and be able to plan from day one when somebody starts working at your company all the way till 2 weeks after they either get fired or retire or go somewhere else. You should have a plan in place of how you are rewarding them, how you are encouraging them, how you are supporting them, how you are recognizing them. You need to be intentional with all of those things and have a plan.
That's good.
Birthdays, anniversaries, when they make certain training milestones, when you recognize when they displayed one of your company's common or core values.
That's good.
And so we have an entire plan that starts at day one. And so one of the things that we've implemented is during the interview process, we ask our employees, what's one $15 luxury you can't live without? And they tell us, and all they think is that it's part of just the interview process.
That's right,
it's just some wonky question. Well, on day one, we give them that $15 luxury.
That's awesome.
Now, what that is it could be about the $15 luxury, I suppose. Whether they say, I just cannot live without my chapstick, and we buy them a giant bag of chapstick, or just a couple of Chipotle gift cards. It's not about that thing, though. It's really about showing them, listen, we listen to you, and we care about you. And not only do we just say we care about you, but we're going to back it up. And it's that intentional listening. But what's important is later on in that day, when they're in orientation, we're going to teach them about intentional listening.
That's awesome.
And so what's so beautiful about that is we teach them about that, but they've experienced it. Mm-hmm. And when somebody has an experience, they're going to be more likely to replicate it.
That's right. It sticks,
right?
man.
Exactly. And so through really displaying to our team members what we want them to do in our coffee shop, when we can display it to them, they're going to replicate that in the cafe. And that's really what it's all about.
That's right.
And so it shows them that we care, and it shows them that we love them, but it also shows them how we expect them to act and work in the workplace.
That's
and so
right.
when we're hospitable to our guests, when we're hospitable to our employees, they'll be hospitable to our guests.
That's right.
And so that's what we try to do as much as possible.
That's cool, man. Well, we just have a few minutes left.
Okay.
And so I just want to ask you maybe two more questions.
Let's do it.
So,
We'll make it quick.
So here we go. I know, man, that it is a great experience walking into Loyal because I've been there.
Thank you.
Great feel, great vibe, great atmosphere. But also, above all of that, you guys serve great coffee.
Yes.
And you just won an award for that, correct? You just had one of the roasting championships. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so real quick, so at last year's United States Roasting Championships, our roaster Bevan placed top 6 in the nation in top roasters.
Wow.
Also at Coffee Fest Denver, we recently won America's Best Espresso. And we also recently won, locally we won Best Coffee Shop in Colorado Springs, and we also won Best Barista in Colorado Springs.
Amazing.
So all over national, local, the people apparently love Loyal Coffee.
That's right.
We're thankful to serve the people, though.
That's
for
so
sure.
cool. And then lastly, tell me just about the name. Where did the name Loyal come from?
Totally.
And just a little bit about that.
So, when we opened Loyal Coffee, the narrative in Colorado Springs about Colorado Springs wasn't the most positive. A lot of people were moving to, like, quote unquote, cooler cities, right? They're moving to Portland and Austin and New York. And the reality is some things were cooler about those places. The art and food was better and stuff. But We really believe at Loyal that when you water that when you water the grass at your feet, it can really make a giant impact. So for us, opening Loyal was about watering the grass at our feet instead of complaining that the grass was greener somewhere else.
Yep.
You see, when you water the grass at your feet, it makes things around you better. And when you make things around you better, it also elevates it, right? When you bring a school into a neighborhood, it raises the property value, right? It makes everything around it better. So for us, opening Loyal was about watering the grass at our feet and trying to raise the tide. Rising tide raises all the ships, right?
So I love it.
So it helps everybody else. And so for us, that's kind of what Loyal means, is to say, okay, you know what? Instead of going somewhere else, we're going to stick here. We're going to be loyal to where we are. We're going to dig our heels in, water the grass at our feet, and hopefully make this place better. And so hopefully we're doing that, and we're doing our very best to just do what we can in our little niche. Right. We try not to bite off more than we can chew. We could participate in local government, but guess what? That's not what we do.
Yeah.
And that's okay. Mm-hmm. In fact, I believe because we chose not to do some things, like participate in government or start a church plant or do whatever, that we're actually making more of an impact. Yeah. We're choosing to do the one thing that we're good at, and we're going to do it really, really well. And I think if more people said, you know what, I'm going to be loyal to my one thing. I'm going to be loyal to hospitality.
That's awesome.
Or I'm going to be loyal to parenting.
Yeah.
Or I'm going to be loyal to local government. Or I'm going to be loyal to pastoring. Whatever that thing is.
Yeah.
That will have a greater impact than people doing just a little bit of a lot of things.
I love it.
Pick your one thing, do it really well. Water the grass at your feet. The rising tide will raise all the ships, and it will make everyone around you better. And so the name Loyal really is trying to represent that, the watering of the grass at our feet, staying loyal to wherever your feet are planted, and it really will make a positive change.
Yeah,
and that's what it's all about.
I love it, man. Tyler, thank you so much for being with us today. This has been awesome stuff with Tyler Hill. Definitely awesome guy. Loves Colorado Springs, loves coffee, loves people, and thanks for giving back today, man.
My pleasure.
So thanks for listening to the City Builder Podcast. For more interviews with other leaders building our great city, check out thinkersensitive.com and click on the City Builder Podcast. I'm Shawn Reine, and thanks again for listening.
For more Thinker Sensitive content, visit thinkersensitive.com.